our stuff. And just a second. Okay, you're live.
Okay. Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the change management. Um, I guess this will be the official 2022 kickoff of the work. We've talked about it, we've socialized it, we've done all those things, and now we're ready to actually put the work in to put this module and a tool together that we can assess change readiness and do some assessments so that we can integrate the work from the workforce group and the technology group and get this thing moving so that we can have a tool that works for the water industry. Um, and I think Cello is trying to get us ready for our Mentimeter for later on in the meeting. Cello, we can go to second
Yes.
slide.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I was logging
No,
into
that's
Mentimeter.
okay.
Yes,
That's
second
okay.
slide. Yes, sorry.
Yes. So today we're going to talk about the broader context for change management in WISE. We're going to look at identifying some of the challenges in change management, and that's going to require lots of input from you guys. And then we're going to talk about our next steps. How do we develop this tool that will integrate all of the pieces of the puzzle for WISE? Cello?
Yeah, thank you, Ramona. So we've all looked at this diagram before, and it's showing the things that are happening, the things that are happening generally on the project. So far, we've defined we've on as far as the first step in our improvement methodology, we've defined in the people on the people team defined the maturity model for the organizational culture and workforce. The components, 7 components, are shown here. We have we have a maturity model for the process that we're selecting in place, and we have a maturity model in place for technology. We also have a method for assessment of maturity for the workforce side, and for the process side, we also have a draft one for the technology side. So we've done all this work so that we can provide information to this circle around everything, which is change management, which sort of needs to have information from about the people, about the process and technology. It needs to have all that information in order to work properly. So what we're going to do with this team, and it's the heaviest lift of all the teams because it's kind of all encompassing, we will use the results from these assessments, and we will also have an assessment of our own. Now, this is just an example of these other assessments, so that once we define the scope of improvement, then we can decide, okay, we're just going to look at the workforce and organization. We would, select we would plan it and then conduct the workforce maturity. We have since modified these things a little bit. But if we also want to look at processes and technology, we're going to select a business process, conduct this business process maturity and technology. So we know where we are. How are we currently doing when it comes to workforce and culture and business process and technology? So we will have to have a similar kind of map for change management. And what we will want to do is leverage these other assessments and develop a model of our own that would be pertinent for change management. So this is a high level sort of idea of what we're going to do. So these, let me stop and see if there are any questions on this. Okay, So what we talked, these are the next steps from our last meeting. These are the next steps that we defined at our last meetings, which is to define the stakeholders, their role, the involvement, identify activities, describe the workflow, identify decisions, what data is required. So we have done this for other business processes, and most literature and practitioners in change management define it as a process. So, and then we would then also develop a maturity assessment tool for change management and define how it integrates with other components of the WISE framework. So Ramona is completely right. It's our intention is to figure out who from the team would be, because this is kind of, you know, sausage making, weightlifting kind of stuff to do this. So we want to figure out how people want to get participants want to get engaged, and how they want to you know, contribute. Let me stop here and hear if there are any questions. Okay, everybody's up to speed. Oops, sorry. So we're gonna go to a Mentimeter exercise, and let me know, can you hear, I'm sorry. I will put in the chat line. Do I need to put this into the chat line? You either on your phone or on a computer, you would just go to this website and then use this code, and that would give you access to the Mentimeter. And I will then let me just present it. Again, the code is at the top of the screen right here. And I will put the link into the chat.
Castro put the link in the chat.
Okay, excellent. Thank you, Castro. So once you log in, we're trying, Ramona, perhaps you can take over on this part if you don't mind. Your mic.
I'm sorry. So what we're going to do is, as we go through this, I mean, and we can talk about what these questions or these statements are, and then we can use that to kind of to get everybody's input on where they think they are, because I think we're more alike than we know. I think all of us think that our utility is the strangest, and I think we'll realize that all of our utilities are strange, which makes them not strange. So we just want to get a gauge for where the stumbling blocks are and where the hot points are, so that we can formulate our plan and our assessment tools to this information. So again, which of these challenges would you apply to change management in your organization? That I think is key. It gives us a good idea of what most of us are either on board with, how organizations are functioning. I think that gives us a good measure.
We have 7 responses so far. Let me just see. 2, 4, 6, 9, 15. Okay, we'll give people a few more minutes to provide their answers, because once they get out of the question, out of the page, I can't go easily back to it.
And Ramona, you may want to have people talk about this, but it's obviously showing that there are needs in the change management area.
Right.
Why are we not surprised with these results?
Right. Right.
Yeah, Kesra, you're right. I think that once we have this, we will at least not have to say it is intuitively obvious,
Right.
but we'll be able to say people, instead of saying it's intuitively obvious, we can say people agree or there's an agreement. So if you want me to wait a little bit,
No, I mean,
I can go
how
to
many
the next
folks do
one.
we have in here?
We have
9.
9.
We've
We have
got
9.
14 people in the meeting and we have 9 responses so far.
Yes,
Oh, okay.
but for example, I'm not voting because I can't vote because I'm
It's not, yeah.
Yes, so I will. Ramona, should I go to the next one, Ramona?
Well, I do want to talk about one thing that Deborah
Okay,
did put
sure.
in the chat before we move forward is, and what she said was the emotional component of change management is not understood. And I think that's a big deal because I don't think that, yes, we deal with workforce and organizational culture, but the minute you say change management, I think everybody gets
Mhm.
an anxiety attack because they think that means you're trying to wipe my job out. That means that you want me to function differently. You want me to be completely uncomfortable in my currently comfortable situation. And you have all kinds of pushback based on the emotional component. And I think that's something that we absolutely need to address when we broach these subjects on change management. And maybe we should craft some talking points to show how this could be, it's going to be uncomfortable, but it doesn't have to be a full-blown anxiety attack. So that's just, I just think that that's a great point, Deborah.
And I don't mean to distract from the point where we are, but one of the things that Marco Merrick and I had a discussion about making sure that the component of diversity, equity, and inclusion is included in both on the workforce and organization culture side and on the change management side. So Marco has graciously agreed to sort of do some heavy thinking on this, and also we will look for people who would join a core team with Marco to kind of make sure that we don't ignore these issues.
Right.
I'm only saying this because I know that he's kind of a shy person and he needed to be pushed a little bit. So
that's generous, and you know, thank you for that. That's, well, I'm not shy. I'm really not shy. When you're the youngest in your sibling group, you're not shy because you have to fight for everything. So, and so that's where I am. So yeah, absolutely. I believe that, you know, as it relates to the equity lens here and what we're doing, everything is intentional. Ramona knows, you know, we talked about this. So what we're doing here, particularly around change management, is to be intentional about every level of whatever the entity or the organization is. Because when we speak of equity, it's so interesting because equity is synonymous for me with change. So it means looking at a paradigm shift that enables us and all entities to make informed decisions at leadership levels that actually reflect folk who are not in leadership levels, and where that it's shifting the force, or folk will say power, but all too often decisions are made without considering where the power or where the lack of power, where the pain and or struggle may actually exist. And so to enable the equity lens is to be intentional. And it's a space that I say often that we can't actually work in it or just do it as if it's like an assignment. We really have to take it on as we live in it. We have to be it because it's very much a part of us. And then it enables those who are not in places of influence or decision making to understand that that we not just empathize, we understand and we can live and feel what it is to shift and make change that is reflective. And believe it or not, it enables progress in ways that we would not see or know otherwise.
Ramona, in the chat, I have a statement and an endorsement and 2 endorsements volunteering Deborah Anderson for this team. So since this came from Kesra, I usually basically just do what whatever Kesra says. So, and Marco just proved that he is not shy. So, let me know when you want me to move to the next.
Yes. So again, as we see, the largest issue is that there's a lack of a standard approach, which is what we would like to develop. The next pain point for most is no guidelines. So again, that comes back to what we will be developing through WISE, and then little awareness of CM by staff and management. And I think the educational piece is going to be huge. And as Marco said, engaging all stakeholders, and especially those who are living in the process. I think that's most important. So we can go to the next one.
Okay, give me just a second. This is a little pedestrian thing to go through all these things, but it just bear with me. But you should see the new one. And this is just a chance for you to just make, just freely, because we didn't identify, all the barriers. We just had excellent, thank you. So whatever you think we should use as identified as barriers, so that we can later say, are we, what we're doing, are we addressing these barriers? Because if you folks put down a bunch of things here that we're not addressing, then we're probably not doing the right thing. So I hope that it will allow you to make more than one comment. I set it up this way, but sometimes the program kind of barfs at that, and we'll give people a chance to respond. Fantastic input. One thing that we don't have a problem here is the lack of smart people in this group.
Spoke too quickly. I'm not sure how to get my response in there.
Okay, I don't know. I don't see things from your end, Marco. So maybe somebody who has the screen, Ramona, or somebody could.
Are you using Mentimeter on your computer? It should ask you the question, and then there's a blue box that you should be able to click in.
I'm using Mentimeter, but I don't see the blue box.
So do you see any area where it says it should have an area for you to click, and then under it will say you can submit multiple answers?
Marco, not to get you frustrated, just put it in the chat line.
Yeah, I was successful on the last question. I don't know what happened with this one, but yeah, I can put it in the chat.
Yeah, if you put it in the chat, then we don't frustrate you here with trying to figure out the button. Because I can't see it, I can't help you. Yeah. And then I will make sure that the answers that we collect here, if anybody else has a problem, put it in the chat line, and I will make sure that it gets recorded.
Well, I mean, Marco, maybe you can go to a new window and retype in menti.com and then re-input the code.
Yeah.
But if not, if you add it,
yeah. We can just put it in the chat and then add it.
Yeah.
Or you could just tell us.
Or if you put it in the chat, I can copy paste it and throw it in there so that we'll have a record. Either way.
Oh, wow. These are excellent comments. Wow. Yo, these are great comments. Wow, geez. These are awesome. I'm sorry, this organizations are already fired the name.
Yes, that is true. That is so true.
Yeah, these are all good.
These are wonderful comments.
And Deborah, on your earlier comment, so it's kind of like on one of the earlier behavior comments on here, but are the participants emotionally ready for the change?
Deborah, I think you're going to get volunteered for the workforce and organizational culture team as well. It's not in the chat yet, but I can see it coming.
So I just want to make one comment about the emotional piece. With our organization, the emotional piece can be very, what's the word I want to look for? Almost overwhelming, because people are so emotional. They are passionate, they care, but they're afraid. They're not necessarily, sometimes not even scared to lose their job, but just afraid of something different, something new, a different approach. They sometimes don't feel that they may have the right skills. Are they adequate? So the emotional gamut is very wide and deep. And so I've seen a lot of different emotions, and it is very overwhelmingly powerful and passionate, but it's something that you cannot ignore. It must be addressed with respect, open and honest communication, and with a strategy and a plan, so they feel that they're not flapping in the wind, if you will. So that's my experience here, to deal with each situation with respect, open and honest communication, and then try to show them I have a plan. And that
Mark,
kind of
yeah.
calms them down a little bit.
Thank you. Marco and then Ramona have their hands up.
Yeah, thank you. I just wanted to chime in on that. First of all, I did drop some things in the chat that I think are significant, and I would say that a barrier, particularly being in an agency in the city, in an urban center, and Ramona knows a number of the challenges, if not all of them. But one of the things that is so important when we are engaged in right now, I'm launching this month, we have proactively launched something called Equity Change Groups. And that is to enable at every level of this agency, approaching almost 3,000 employees, that there is engagement, input, and foremost acknowledgement that folk exist all too often. And I will use as an example the solid waste workers, hundreds of people who are out on the street every day moving solid waste or taking care of recyclables, and you name it, and all that goes with that. That is without fail. That is a service without which we cannot do. That's any of us who are residents, whether we're in a business, whether in a hospital, at a university, or in our residences. We cannot do without that. And all too often, the individuals who are doing this work are doing the work that many of us wouldn't want to do, don't want to do, and it is looked at in some ways very shamefully. And so individuals who do this work lack some sense of esteem or pride, and not realizing how extremely valuable they are. What I learned just a year ago in going on the street and talking to residents and businesses and communities, asking them to just give a soundbite for a program that we were doing in celebration of Dr. King's birthday. And I went to a strata of communities in Baltimore. And I want you to know that whether I was in a mall, a strip mall, in a neighborhood, at a church, at a synagogue, or wherever I was, the folk that I approached, not one individual, not one community, not one resident said anything unfavorable about the solid waste workers. They were ambitious, eager to create sound bites. Some of them created videos that they sent expressing their gratitude for these individuals. And I believe that the more we can imbue in these folk who do the work on the front lines externally, but we have to internally build that level of value, that level of respect and appreciation in the individuals, then when we do it internally, the external change and the external product is going to be so much simpler. But it has to start within and then grow from there.
Thank you, Marco. Ramona?
So to that point, I actually was having a conversation with someone yesterday about our organization is going through a culture change in terms of how we manage. For so long, it was not a supportive environment. And I think one of the stumbling blocks is that the long-term trauma that we have an aging workforce. We have a lot of people who, we have more of a majority of long-term employees than we have new employees. Most of our employees have been there for more than 5 years. So imagine that you're trying to implement change management in a group of people who have suffered severe trauma in the workplace. And it's almost like they've been in an abusive relationship. I'm going to tell you how horrible you are and why you should be so grateful that I'm here. And now we want to change it and say, okay, we're changing this management style to supportive, and we want to know what you think, and we want to know how we can help you. It's almost like they back up against a wall and say, this is a trick. I don't trust you. I don't believe you, and I don't want to participate. So it's interesting how those things parallel day-to-day relationships, and there's so much trauma and fear that everybody, the minute you say change management, they don't think that it goes hand in hand with a supportive management organization. So I think that's going to be one of our challenges.
Kesra is next. I just want to say, it seems like change management includes two words that put people, feel like that they're against the wall.
Yes.
So it compounded effect.
Yes.
Yes, Kesra.
So I remember way back, I think in the 80s, when trade unions were really, really strong, and there was this big divide between management and employees, and in the auto industry, they started introducing what they called quality of life circles or quality circles or something, where management and team leaders will come together to make decisions. And they found they had this pilot that they did, and they saw huge change in productivity because it was participatory, right? Now you had people, boots on the ground, sitting with their supervisors, talking about the problems and finding solutions together, as opposed to the management sitting up there and saying, oh, we think this is wrong. Okay, employee, go do this, right? So they found that change was really hard. But when they started creating these quality of life circles in the decision-making processes, they found that change was a lot easier. So that's just a thought where we need to come together. People that do the work every day are the ones that can better tell how we can make it better than people sitting in offices and trying to make a change based on a textbook.
Thank you. Ramona, should I go to the next one, you think?
Okay.
We have 39 comments. Okay. I'm sorry.
Hey, LaJoyce.
Yes, sir. You called me back.
Yeah, it was a mistake.
Okay.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Sorry. So this one should now just to kind of help us figure out some of the priorities that you feel. So what would help improve change management, and if you could kind of rank in order that you think how effective these possible actions could be, so that we can kind of get a sense of priorities, or how people feel, what would be the cures or the solutions. Very interesting. Ramona, I'm sorry for talking too much. You can let me know when I should go to the next one. Or...
No, you're not talking too much. I find this interesting, that it's just a very interesting that you can see it.
A lot of good input.
Yeah.
Mona, one of the things that we're doing in the other groups, as you know, is that we are identifying specific, let's say, work processes and having people pilot the people process technology. And it could be that we wind up with pilots with this team eventually too. If you look at the third place item, demonstrating the value of change management on specific practical examples, we would have some pilot examples of utilities going through the process. So maybe that's one method of accomplishing this.
Yeah.
I think we have all the responses in them. I'm sorry, Ramona.
No, that's fine. I think the one that I would like us to kind of give some feedback on is the executives demanding and supporting improvement in change management. How do we think that ties in with the emotional portion, and that maybe demanding might have been a strong word, but if we can kind of have a little bit of discussion about what our thoughts on that, because that ranked second.
Mike has his hand up.
Yeah, Ramona, I did honestly emotionally react to demanding. I thought, whoa, you know. Yes. But I calmed down and peeled myself off the ceiling, and I'm just exaggerating a little bit. But the thing that kind of twisted me on this particular ranking was the order of effectiveness. I thought that executives, many instances, may not know what change management really is. And so I started thinking about, okay, well, I'm going to go in kind of time order here, and that's how I answered it. But bottom line, if the executives, the leaders in the organization don't know what is or even, you know, support something, that it's not going to happen. So
Right.
I just wanted to share that with you.
Yeah. Alice?
Yeah, I guess mine was very similar in that when I looked at this, obviously demanding was a, a big word, but you know, I felt like if we have training, if we adopt a common framework, that's all well and good. You're going to have like those few people who like love change and are like, yeah, let's try this, doing it, but the rest of the organization is just going to ignore it, unless you have management and leadership sort of saying like, yeah, you need to do this. And so at least at the very beginning, it seems like you do have to have some sort of like policy that we're going to do this, or, you know, your boss telling you like, hey, let's try this out, in order to get most people sort of over that hump.
I think Keisha has her hand up as well. Your mic.
Yeah,
Mike.
I agree with what Alice just said, because one of the things that I found in our organization is when a chief of an area says, well, this is too hard for my people to do, so they're just not doing it, and accepts that, right, then that becomes an issue. Whereas if the chief says that, okay, my people are having a hard time with this, can you guys get together and figure out what their issues are and tell their people that you're going, you know, engage with others and get this done, because it has to be done somehow. So let's come together on this. So I've seen those two different things, at least even in our organization. You got one chief that's encouraging their people that this needs to be done, and that area is collaborating and working things out to figure out how they can. Whereas there's another area that's saying, well, my people think this is too cumbersome and we're just not going to do, and then they can't do it. So we're just not doing it. So I think that's where the executive demanding, I agree that when I first saw that also, but then when I looked at this in our organization, I'm like, well, if that chief demanded their people to say, look, this is for better or for the organization, so we have to figure out how best to do it. We need to come to the table, as opposed to, well, they're just not going to do it. So.
Thank you. Ramona, move to the
Okay,
next.
yep, we can go to the next one.
Okay, give me just a second, please. Yeah, it should be up. In your experience on major projects, what typically gets most attention? What do you observe when people have a big project? What do they think about, talk about most? These are the three aspects of our overall model for the organization: people, process, and technology.
Yeah, so you're not saying what is necessarily best, you're just saying what usually happens in your organization, right?
That is important,
Yeah.
yes, that's important, yeah.
So this is sort of interesting, because I think it'd be different if you ask management this question versus employees the same question, right? The employees would probably say, well, workforce, they don't even care about us. They're more about, you know, process and technology. Whereas I think if you ask the management, I think the last thing they think about is workforce and organizational culture. They really they look at more at process improvements and technology. So I think it's whose viewpoint
Right.
change this answer.
Right.
There are three more hands up,
Yeah.
Ramona.
Roxy had her hand
Roxy?
up
Yeah.
earlier. Yeah.
Roxy?
Hey, yes, I wanted to speak from the perspective of the others that I agree with what they were saying, but some of the things I think I see here is if we truly do not get buy-in or support from the top in the beginning, then it kind of dwindles away. You know, they really have to go in, sell it, get all of the division heads, the middle management, all of them into it, because it won't pass. You know, and like the other young lady said, that if one manager doesn't really feel the need, or if it's not as important to them, then they won't really support the effort. So to me, the demanding piece, I was kind of a little hesitant to select it because demanding sounded like force, but I went ahead and selected it because I felt like that it really wasn't demanding piece, but just a support from the senior level. So I hope that makes sense in what I was saying.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Alice or Mike Sweeney?
I'm unmuted.
Yeah,
real quick. So I wanted to talk on this slide. And, you know, it's interesting because I think I have the opposite perspective from what Kaysra was saying. I agree that it depends on what perspective you're talking about, but we've been having a lot of conversations at our leadership and management level about being more person-centered and focusing on the people. But I have been administering a survey that we have out to our employees about re-entering office spaces, because believe it or not, the city of Portland still hasn't gone back to our offices in 2 years. And what I'm seeing people put into that, like lower down in the organization, like people throughout, they're like, what about my computer? Am I going to have headphones? They're focusing a lot on the technology. Do we have widescreen TVs in each of the conference rooms and that kind of thing? And not thinking as much about the process and people dynamics. And so, yeah, I think I totally agree with Kaysra that it depends on what perspective you're looking at it, but I think it also a lot depends on what the change is.
Yeah.
And there's some other changes, big changes that we've had where process was more important or where people were more important. And so to me, it's more about what change are you talking about and what are people paying attention to.
Charlie has his hand up.
Yeah, so I guess I had a question on this one. I didn't respond because process improvements is pretty wide. So does that mean treatment process? You know, that's the reason I didn't answer on this one.
Yeah, that's a mistake. It should have said business process. The intention of this question was that a lot of and again, it reflects a bit of a bias, because most of my work has been in doing projects, you know. So I thought about, you know, big projects, you know, upgrading treatment plant, improving, you know, billing system or whatever it is. Those are the types of changes that I was thinking. So perhaps it was not perhaps the wording was not the best, and I didn't think about like a treatment process, you know, whether it's chlorination or you know, solids, you know, or clarifiers or anything like that.
Well,
So
you know, good old engineer, they're going to think about treatment processes. They don't really care about business processes.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. This should have been worded differently. Yes.
So anyway, the other, you know, the previous one that we were talking about, I keep getting interrupted, so that's why I haven't had a lot of it. But I mean, I've agreed with everything everybody's been saying. But without having a kind of part of your strategic plan or some kind of plan, right, coming from the executive team or the director of the department, general manager, whatever the title is, yeah, I think it's going to be really hard to get the whole department to buy into it. Because otherwise you end up with pockets of excellence, right, or semi-excellence to the best of your ability. And I think some other people made the same comment, but I totally agree with that.
Okay, Ramona.
So I think one of the things that I don't see often in terms of major projects, whether it's a change management initiative or it's some sort of change in a process or policy, I think one of the things that I noticed that does not happen prior is that there's no socialization of the idea and there's no almost marketing plan so you can get people used to the idea It's in the works. We're talking about it. If you want to be involved in the early stages, get involved. It's coming. It's definite. It's here. Let's do it. You know, people, we don't socialize these ideas enough so that when it actually happens, everybody's not going, whoa, where did that come out of left field? It's a demand. And, you know, like you said, everybody's got to peel themselves off the ceiling because it's a big surprise. So I think that's one of the things that we should look at in terms of how we rank this is socializing the idea prior to making any of these decisions. We know we got to do something. We know we're going to do it, but we've got to get that socialized.
Ramona, one of the things that we've come across in some of the other teams is this notion that you're starting with what is the problem you're trying to solve, and that you document what you're now doing in an as is, and then what a to be is, and that it's an inclusive process. You know, to address that. I mean, that's really because sometimes the executives, let's say, will just say, here's what we're doing, why we're doing, now everybody just do it. and right. There isn't that socialization that you're talking about. And it's really hard for people to emotionally commit to something where they're not even engaged in it, right?
Right, right.
So this is the next question related to the first one. In your observation on major projects, what are the most likely causes of problems or failure? Just from your observation, whether it's work and just so we get to see whether, you know, how it compares with the previous question. And process means business process improvements.
Is there an all of the above section?
Cello,
or it depends, right?
You know me too well, Cello.
We have one more question and another thing after that. I didn't mean to rush, but it's very rewarding to see the engagement, and the comments are excellent. This will give us a lot of food for thought. And I thought that it might be interesting later to compare the two charts. We will give a couple of people a chance. And then when we get to 11, Ramona, would it be okay to go to the next question?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. Just a couple of more. We're almost there. We're almost there. Marco, is it working for you now? Okay. Okay. Let me know when to move forward. Maybe somebody's having a glitch or an issue or something like that.
You're on mute, Ramona. Yeah.
Oh no, I was just saying we have 10 so far, so.
Okay, that's okay?
I think we're okay, yes.
Okay, okay. Okay, and this is the last one. And again, oops, sorry. This is on future projects, what type of methodology would make a positive difference? What would be important for the methodology to contain, to have, or to help us with the barriers and the challenges that we've been talking about? Just so you know that when we're working on these things, so we know, okay, are we meeting these demands? What, you know, what is important for people who understand these issues? So just to make sure, I have one answer that was strongly disagree. That would mean that having a methodology that clearly defines the roles and responsibilities, that it's not that important to define roles and responsibilities. Sometimes these questions can be a little bit tricky because I see a little bit of a discrepancy between this set of results and the other ones. So just maybe sometimes I know that, you know, what the, especially when it's a positive difference, but
yeah, we'll want to hear from those that ranked it strongly disagree, you know,
yeah.
in terms of why they did that.
Because it would basically mean that that component, that was not something that would be useful. Yeah. We're at 10. Ramona, please let me know. Would you like to have a discussion here?
Yes,
And
we can go ahead with the discussion. Yes. We've got a
Okay.
couple of people, I think, with hands up, maybe.
yeah,
Terry Ann.
Terry Ann,
Terry Ann, yeah.
Hey, good morning, everybody.
good morning.
So when I saw these questions, I got excited because I'm saying, oh my goodness, if we have all of these, get all of these done, would be rolling. It would be so awesome. But let's see, because it's like our anticipation is to actually have all of these and have change management done. How to work together, know that management and everybody thinks about them. We're not just here just to see numbers and to get production up and anything like that. We're here for you too. But yeah, I got excited when I saw the questions, but then implementing it is a different thing. So that's all I.
Okay, thank you.
Did anyone want to quickly comment on you know, why they might have had a low score?
Well, I guess on this particular survey question, to me, we're all public sector, so maybe that question made the least difference to me.
Yeah.
Rest of them are more important, I think, overall.
Yeah. Okay, Ramona, we have still a couple of things like homework to discuss. So is that okay if I thank you very much, everybody?
Yes.
Let me just get out of this and just a second.
So can I say that today I really feel like we are on our way to figuring this stuff out and figuring out how it's going to best work for us. And I like the format that we were all able to kind of provide input and insight, because I think we all have important information that can add to this initiative. So it's been great to be able to actually go through these questions and get some good ideas on where everybody wants to go.
Great. We're almost at the end of time. Just quickly, what we were thinking about, it's very important for us to get people involved and engaged. We're going to be working on developing a maturity model and the assessment for change management. And since it's defined as a process, I included here some of the components for generic business processes that we have defined, and we can go there for inspiration to look at what is required for the process of change management. And so the question is, if when people, we have 6 ongoing initiatives on this WISE effort, and if people sometimes have like the favorite topic that they want to spend most of their time and have a lot of engagement, and maybe some other topic that they're mostly want to quote audit or just be kept up to speed, but not really roll up the sleeves and, you know, get down in the trenches. So what would be important is for us to get a sense, and we call those folks the ones that are kind of really committed to a specific topic, the core team. So it'd be really helpful for us to know, right, Ramona, to construct a core team for this group. Maybe it's everybody, but if maybe somebody doesn't quite have the bandwidth to get engaged, we would still, and then we may have more meetings than bi-weekly, and we would organize workshops and get really down into the sausage making. So it'd be very good to know. Ramona, you can maybe say it better than me.
Yeah, so I think it'd be good to know which parts of this folks want to be more engaged in. We're going to have to develop an assessment tool, and we're going to start having much more interaction in these meetings. Maybe we can continue down this road, and as we go forward, then folks can say, okay, well, this portion, I kind of want to take a lead on this, on how we incorporate this piece, and that way everybody doesn't have to work on everything, because that can, we all have full-time jobs, and that could become a little bit overwhelming. So if everyone can kind of think about what portion they're interested in, we kind of know where Marco is headed, right?
So not to put anybody on the spot, especially because we're over our time, if you could just send us an email to Ramona, and if you would copy Scott and me, that'd be great, and say, I would like to get involved in, like, just as an example, Deborah Anderson could say, well, I'd love to get involved in this, so so that we can then construct the invites and the things, so we're not bothering people who just kind of, like if you had ham and eggs for breakfast, the chicken was involved and the pig was committed. So we're looking for the folks who want to be committed a little bit to this topic. And based on what I was hearing, is there's plenty of commitment and passion around on this team. And Kesra has a hand up, and I'm sure she wants to volunteer.
I just have a quick question. So when you say to let you know that we want to focus on this part, I mean, are you breaking this change management down into different areas so that we say which area we'd be interested in, or are you looking for a core team overarching, and then within that core team you will have people leading different areas, right?
The second one, yeah.
So really, what we're volunteering for here is the core team, and then we can decide later.
Yes.
How the sausage is going to be made.
Yes.
Yes.
I just want to clarify that. Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure how much bandwidth I have, but I'd love to participate with the core team, and as we meet, then I can maybe determine how much time I can devote to it. But
and maybe that's the question, so we can say, okay, how much time can you devote to it? And I don't think we'll probably be able to determine that until we really start getting into it. Yeah. Deborah, you have a question?
No, more a comment. I want to offer up myself. I have experience with creating strategic plans for maturity matrix, but it was more for a continuous improvement, lean world, but it was a lot of change management in that. And I have some old assessments that are a little more geared towards Lean and Six Sigma, but I love that those type of things. So I put my name in the hat, I guess, for helping with the change management, maturity matrix, and the assessment tool.
Perfect.
Wonderful. Perfect.
See?
Okay, should I stop recording, Ramona, you think? What do you think?
Yes. Yeah, I think we're good. And we're